Welcome to Rooted and Divine with me, Katelyn Paine, a podcast for women ready to shed old identities, heal, and align with their soul. Each week, we'll explore spiritual growth, healing, and personal stories that empower you to embody your truth. Rooted in humanity and fully alive as a divine soul. Hello, friends. Today we have something fun going on. I brought on my girlfriend and bestie. Her name is Andrea Mehner. Welcome, Andrea. So
Thank
happy to
you.
have you here.
This will be fun.
I brought her on because last week I actually tried recording. So I don't know if you guys know this or not. I haven't marketed it very well, but within the podcast platform, you have the option of coming on, asking a question, because I really want this podcast to serve you. And there's been so many times where I've listened to thought leaders, spiritual leaders, podcasts where I'm like, yeah, but like they don't really get it. Like they don't understand what it's like to be married, be a woman, have children, be in whatever specific scenario it is that comes to your mind. And as we move forward on the wheel of time, and as we move forward into this next coming year, there's so many things around us that are going to be dismantling, and it can feel a little shaky. So I really want to support you in that dismantling so that you can birth a whole new consciousness and birth your authenticity into every part of your life. So anyways, today I brought on Andrea because we have our first listener question. And I tried to record an episode last week about it, but it just was feeling like not right. And it was feeling a little sticky, and my dog kept barking, and then I had little kids running into the room. So there's like so many different things happening that I feel like Spirit was like, just chill, Kate. Because I sometimes put so much pressure on myself. I'm like, it has to come out on Thursday, this Thursday. And Spirit just kept being like, I just need you to chill and take a step back. And then I hadn't seen Andrea for a while. We went out to lunch, and then literally it was like our whole lunch was about this question. She didn't even know that the listener had asked this question. And I was like, we're going to record a podcast about this because someone just emailed me this question. And I think it would be helpful to have two perspectives. So, and where two or more gathered, then I feel that a bigger picture can be painted, and more connection and more, I don't know, just shifts can happen when we see two people come together. So anyways,
Exactly. Yes.
here's the listener's question and we'll dive right into it. So, and just so you guys know, if you ever ask a question, I will obviously keep all your details anonymous and just simply ask the question. So we'll be speaking to the reader, but I feel like, you know, whenever there's a question within the field, then that means multiple people are like also dealing with it. So you're not ever alone. So this listener says, when I was listening to your podcast episode about light language, my whole soul was like, yes, totally, yes. And I feel like I'm carrying this amazing energy. And then I shut it off. And it's like, I gotta go make my kids lunch. I gotta get out the door. My kids are screaming in my ears and just everyday stuff. It feels like there are two different versions of me. One that wants to dive in and become the great energy, high frequency being and live that way. But in reality, I'm actually over here in the space logistically trying to move and get through my life. Do you have any practical tips in moving through the world being instead of this logistical, this has to be done type of way? So why don't you kick us off, Andrea? What are your initial thoughts about that?
Oh man, I feel for her.
Yeah.
That is the balance, right? The duality of being a woman in our society, of balancing your path while also being a mother. It's hard.
Yeah. And when I initially read this question, there were so many things that came to mind. And really, her question is about how do I stay embodied from moment to moment? And for her to accomplish that, I really feel like we need to break down like energetically, what I feel one of the leading things that's keeping her from feeling like she's is embodied is her relationship to motherhood and what that means. And so I thought maybe we could break down motherhood a little bit, the paradigms of motherhood, and then we'll kind of weave our way back to embodiment and this more spiritual enlightenment place and how they connect.
I mean, I could share my experience of motherhood. I was married a year, then got pregnant. I was, how old at the time? I think 20 or 21 years old, so very young. At that point, I had graduated from college with my bachelor's. So I was just moving through what was expected of me. You go to college, get married, and then start having kids. So at the time, I was just like, I'm ready to take care of a child and not just myself because I just didn't know where to go. Like, what do I do with my time? So I got pregnant, had my first child, and within 6 years is when I had 4 kids in 6 years, and it was a lot. um, and through it, having 4 kids in 6 years was, I mean, I was thrown into motherhood. Like, motherhood was my identity, it was everything about me. I put my kids first before myself, and I was exhausted for it, honestly. I mean, there were conversations I would have with my husband, and I would literally say, I feel like the kids are changed to me. Like, that's how deep it was.
Mhm.
Me. Like, the words, they're changed to me. It was really hard. I was in such a just exhausted, overstimulated space. And I didn't know who I really was because motherhood is such a portal. And I didn't know what that meant until like a year ago. Going from maiden to mother it's transformative. You're never the same person. And so I just feel like it was my journey of going from exhaustion, being overstimulated. I had 4 kids in 6 years, which was a lot. Um, and now I'm at the stage where all 4 of my kids are at school all day, which is wonderful. I love it. As a projector mother, with human design, I need a lot of space and time to myself. But I had always had this idea that that's selfish and I shouldn't be like excited that I get my own time while my kids are in school. So now I'm at a point in motherhood where the last several years, have had the space to dive into myself and to be able to detach myself from just being a mother. Cause that's truly just like was all I was.
Mhm.
And at the time, that's my journey. That was my path. And now I have the space to be able to step back and dive into all of these like spiritual, deep things and understanding who I am and who I want to become. And now I'm at a place where I feel like, as her question is asking, like, how do you balance the two? And I'm here to say it's the duality. Like, it is, that's the point, right? Is
Mhm.
finding ourselves and then merging that with motherhood.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your experience.
Yeah, I love that. I really wanted to highlight something that you said and pull it out a little bit more, and that in our culture and the way that we were raised, I mean, you were raised in Washington, but we were raised within the same religion. But I think with women anywhere, and it lives within our DNA, is that women really are, we are raised with like, you just become a mom. Like, you get married and then you become a mom. And you, like, there wasn't a lot of other options in my experience and in my upbringing, there wasn't a lot of other options, but that you just become the mom. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're raised for. And if we think about even hundreds of years ago, like a woman's, like her life depended on if she could reproduce a male like heir,
Mhm.
and if not, like her life was in jeopardy. And so I think that that lives within the DNA. And then motherhood is kind of, it's put upon us in such this cultural way. And you just start to romanticize it because it's the only option that you're given. And then you get there and you get married and you do the thing and you have the kids, and it's like everything that your family, that your culture, your upbringing told you would make you so happy, and you get there and you're like, I feel like I'm bound in chains. Like, I don't feel happy. I don't feel like more of myself. I don't feel this like, ooh, and maybe that there are some people who do, and if that is your life, that's amazing, and I love that for you. But I think there's so many of us who just were raised with this belief, and then you go to and you do everything. It's like when you're in 7th grade and you're like, or you're in 9th grade, you're a freshman, and you look at an 18-year-old and you're like, they have it made. High school can date college guys. They know what they're doing. And then you get to be a senior in high school and you're like, yeah, I don't know what the freak is happening. I know nothing. Every
Right.
stage of your life, you're like, am I old enough to own a house? Am I old enough to even have a 12-year-old? Like, just
Man, yeah.
every stage. So I think that
Yeah,
that's
truly.
really important to acknowledge, is that like no one here is questioning if you loved your children. You love your children. Every woman loves their children. It's really, like you said, getting to know yourself, and that is a radical act of self-love, because self-love has been portrayed as in such a way that has been deemed, oh, that's very selfish. If you require X amount of time, if you require X amount of resources, if you say no to something, whatever that is. And I think that that is really shifting. I mean, our culture too, we get married and we have kids really young, which isn't normal everywhere, but for us, that's very normal.
Yeah.
I mean, think that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Like, you get out of high school and within the next 7 years, you're like married and have kids, and you're just supposed to be super happy and like, oh my gosh, it's every part of me is fulfilled, when there's so many parts of us that still need to be explored and felt and seen and heard. So,
I know. I mean, I'm trying to remember the science, but isn't your prefrontal cortex not even fully developed until
yeah.
you're I don't know what age it was, but it's like in your
Yeah,
20s.
I think it's like 26, 27, 28 or something. It's something like that, like late 20s.
Yeah, like, it is kind of wild to think that I was so young and got married and had children so young.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that truly catalyzed who I am today. So as much as, like, it seems so crazy, right? To
Mhm,
have
mhm.
kids so young, get married so young. I remember I had a conversation with some of my siblings, and I have a sister who doesn't have kids yet. At the time, this was a few years ago, she was just like, "That is that is so wild." Like, kids are, like, such a catalyst, right? Um, don't you wish that you had time to, like, go work and, all these things? And I was like, "Honestly, I'm not the person I am today without my experience." I
Mhm.
didn't wanna go into integrative health practitioner because I didn't even, like, have much of a desire until I had kids. And when I started researching and realizing that, wow, I'm raising these children and I wanna set them up for the best possible outcome, right? And feeding them, do I choose to do vaccines or not? What products do I have in my home? Like, all of those questions, I just hadn't even thought about it because I hadn't thought about it for myself. But when
Mhm.
you have someone else to take care of, you start thinking about it.
Mhm.
And so I see the beauty in the fact that, yeah, like, it was a lot for me to go through such a short amount of time and having 4 kids, but it is truly how it became, who I am today.
Mhm.
And my path, all of the things that I now do are because of choosing to have children young.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, it's everyone has their own path, right?
totally. And we cannot be victims to the path. Then that's where I also feel like a lot of people within our community get stuck, is that they like to point fingers and blame and say, well, it's because of this. It's because of the church. It's because of this family. It's because of blah, blah, and for
Yeah.
me, that's such a disempowering state to be in, and it's also a state I have so much compassion for, as it's one that I have lots of experience with and being in. But after having lived in that state for so long, I know that there's no true healing that can come from it. And within motherhood, in life, like, we can and we cannot blame. I personally subscribe to that my soul chose everything, that this is the perfect path for me. And was the perfect you said that was the perfect path for you that catalyzed you into who you are today. I think there's also an aspect of motherhood that we, like, kind of bond over being victims to our children, but it
Mm.
kind of also keeps you stuck in this, like, well, we're just over here in survival. We're just over here in straight chaos, and we're over here, and I don't know, it's kind of this, it's just like a really sticky energy to be in. And one, it's I no shame, no judgment, as I've also been in that.
Right,
But
yeah.
it, like, doesn't help the process, like, it actually concretes the energy into your life even more.
Well, yeah, I can 100% relate to that. Because when you are in the chaos, you wanna pull everyone down with you, right?
Mhm.
Because you're in victim mentality. You're in, like, "This is happening to me and not for me." And I was way deep in that
Mhm.
for so many years because I was just so exhausted. I loved my kids to pieces, and I always put them first. I didn't put myself first. And it's like what they say is, on the airplane, put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. But in motherhood, I had this idea that no, like I have to take care of them before me. And I was miserable.
Mm.
I was so miserable. And I would point the fingers at everyone else around me. I'd put a lot of it on my husband, my poor husband, who could handle it, thank heavens. But it got to a point where truly I was just in such a victim mentality that like I was not mentally in a good place. It was really hard. Like I look back on that and I'm like, that was my depths of hell. I was living my own hell.
Mhm.
And it's a state of mind, and I chose that. So, yeah, and I totally think that, like, we find friends that we can bond on trauma, we can bond on exhaustion of motherhood, and that's okay to, like, have that, but also, like, where's the next step? How are you supporting each other? I think there's that level of consciousness of, like, you can be stuck in the muck of it all, and you always have a choice to get out of it. You don't have to sit in that.
Mhm.
And finding the right people too also plays a huge part in that. And luckily, at the time, I mostly had my older sister as my best friend who was in it with me. We both had 4 kids within 6 years. I was just 1 year ahead of her. It was wild. And I really, like, appreciated her friendship during that time because we both were just stuck in it. But it got to a point where we both were just so stuck in it that I just, like, couldn't even handle being around her, and she couldn't handle being around me, and it just, like, created so much drama. And it got to the point where I was just like, "I don't wanna see you again." I truly
Yeah.
don't. But luckily at that time, and this is controversial, but I just feel like I needed to share. That's when we decided to do a plant medicine journey, and it completely shifted our lenses on life. And it's a tool, like, it was the tool at the time that was presented to me. And, but honestly, like, for me and my journey, that was a huge catalyst to me switching that lens and being like, "Oh, I'm not gonna let this like, life happen to me. I'm going to take control of this. I can actually be selfish and put myself first because that's how I'm gonna be a better mother, I'm gonna be a better wife, I'm gonna be a better friend." And it truly just shifted me completely. And that's not everyone's journey, and I'm not saying that it has to be everyone's journey. It's a tool, just like anything. You could do breath work and have the same experience.
Mhm.
there's so many different ways and tools. It's just whatever tool comes your way, like, you have the choice in which direction you go with it.
And what did you do differently? How did you show up differently within your family and with your kids after that?
Honestly, I the shift I realized in that moment was, oh, I am, first of all, putting my energy in relationships that were not energy givers. I was the one constantly giving, giving, giving without getting really much back. So that was like a huge realization I had, which helped me to shift and be like, oh, I no wonder I'm so exhausted. I'm literally giving my energy away constantly and I'm not filling up my cup. So that was truly like that little like switch of, oh my gosh, like I'm not filling up my cup. I'm literally running on nothing. And yet I'm somehow still giving. And that's when I took a step back and was like, had to just sit and look at all my relationships in my life. Who was also giving equal energy to me? And at the time, I didn't really have a lot. And I honestly was like, I need a sisterhood. I need friends that like can also support me and I can support them. And it's very equal. And so when I actually sat down and started looking at those relationships and then I took a step back from them, it was so cool. Like the universe worked in my favor. And because I freed up that space, so many new women came into my life, like boom, boom, boom. And it was just incredible. Like the most supportive people. Luckily at the time, my husband was also like, he became part of like this men's group that was really great. And that's how I found a lot of those women because they were in the mindset of wanting to connect, support, love, like just a different frequency of people. And that shifted how I showed up for my family because I was finally getting poured into as well and not just like completely depleted, giving my energy away to all these people that they were, it's not that they were bad or anything. It was just like, it just was not equal.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that that's huge. And a huge part of realizing, so when this woman asked the question of like, okay, I feel the podcast. I'm sure there's other scenarios, obviously, besides listening to my podcast, in which you feel these high frequency. Like you feel this, what I'm interpreting from the question is you feel this authenticity, this true divine essence moving through you. You're like, oh, here I am. I'm alive. I'm well. And then it's kind of like, okay, I've got to shut it down and I got to do these very masculine things. And something Andrea and I had talked about is that motherhood is actually a very, especially with young children, it's a very masculine place to be in because it is very logistical, because it does require so much of your time, because there might be a human that's relying on your body for nourishment, and then on top of people are just relying on you. And when you notice the difference, I just really want to commend this listener because there's a lot of women who go through this phase and don't even notice that there's two different versions, or notice that they might feel empty or turned off on some of these mundane aspects that can take up a lot of our life. And just like Andrea has spoken to, the process of knowing thyself, that is really the key point here. It's, you know, to know thyself is will give you the most freedom you could possibly give, but it will require you to go into the shadows and the depths and the things that scare you the most. There might not even be a place that you might totally even consciously recognize where you don't want to go. But it's like my invitation to this listener and to all listeners is like, what is your beliefs about motherhood? What do you believe that you have to do? What do you believe being a good mom means? What do you believe being a good wife means? What do you believe being a good woman means? And as you sit down and you take inventory of like, okay, here's what I believe. And then Andrew's like, and then I was taking inventory of my life, like the people in my life, the events whatever it is that I'm choosing to do, is that matching with this frequency that you feel. And then take inventory of when you do feel most yourself, when you feel that high frequency, what qualities does that version of you emanate? What qualities, what attributes, where does she come alive? And write that down. and then really start to just like walk through your life and notice is like, okay, I've been hanging out with this group of friends for this long and it's all I've had, but like Andrea said, like now I'm noticing that I actually don't really resonate with these people. I've just kind of been here. And it's these small moments where we get to really take up space. And again, with women, we haven't been shown by our own mothers, by our culture, that it's okay or safe to take up space and to say, actually, I need this to be the best version of myself. And think about too, like we put so much pressure on moms of like, okay, like I'm a mom and I have it all together. And there's like this performance thing that kind of goes on. But
Mhm.
like you're like like a shell of a human putting on a performance, just trying to survive, but then you're like simultaneously posting on Instagram and you're like, "Oh my gosh, my family is so beautiful and perfect and I love every moment." And then you like shut off Instagram and you cry on your couch. Like you're like,
Yeah.
"This is the worst. I'm so sad."
I know, it's true.
And
Yeah.
I feel like at this point is really where we have to have courage as women to go into the depths of our psyche and reclaim these parts of ourselves that have been programmed out of us. And there's, again, no fingers to blame, but look at what your mom taught you about what being a mom means. What does being a strong woman mean? What does being a compassionate woman mean to you? As we take inventory of the women in our lives and their culture, then we can start to see how we orient within our world. And then we can decide, oh my gosh, we start to see where we can become more embodied through these daily tasks. Because the truth is that I just really believe that you are the CEO and the queen of your life, and you should live as such. And that looks different for every person, but you deserve to take up space as the queen and CEO of your life, not just a doormat and as a human vessel to birth children and to just, make dinners and change diapers and be a chef and a nurse and a romantic partner, and like you are so much more than all of those things.
Yes, definitely. And honestly, for me, that shift happened when I had my 4th child. That's when through my birth experiences, I realized, oh, each birth, I was slowly taking my power back.
Mhm.
Slowly, slowly. And it wasn't until my daughter's birth that I was finally like, she's my last. I'm gonna do a natural birth. I'm gonna do a water birth. I set up myself for the best possible case scenario for her birth. And that was so empowering. And I just look at it as just such a beautiful experience. Was it the hardest thing I've ever done? Yes. So hard. But the reward, the empowerment, I mean, it was just incredible. And so I think when it comes to birth too, like that's such a huge part of womanhood, of being a mother. We can take our birth experiences and really just like tap into what's the most empowered version of this. And then through that experience, you take it throughout your life. There's so many parallels to birth and life that I'm
Mhm.
like, it's just incredible. And witnessing that, as a birth doula, it's been incredible just to witness women in their own power and being that witness to them. And anyways, it's so that's one way as well to have a catalyst of huge change and perception of motherhood. Because a lot of it, just like the way that I was going about motherhood, if it's happening to me, that's how my births were. It was just happening to me, and then I ended up having an emergency C-section, and then it's just like things just like built up that I just felt stuck and out of my own power. And I see that a lot with women, and it's like, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna show up to the hospital, I'll just see what happens, right? Which is fine if that's what you wanna do, but also, like, there's an aspect of it where you can be so empowered, and it can be such a catalyst for change if you choose that. So, I mean, I know you've also had your own birth experiences.
Yeah, and Andrea and I's story differs a little bit because, she has 4 and she had 'em younger. I mean, I was 27 when I had my first child, but I've always been a little bit of a firecracker. I never was there's never been a part of motherhood for me where I haven't been trying to reclaim my power. There have been moments that have been harder than others, or moments where I'm like, "I'm absolutely drowning right now, like, how could this possibly be a reality? Like, why is everyone saying that they're just love having children? Because 'Cause you're just drowning." There's at one point where I really felt like I was at the bottom of the ocean with so much pressure on me. Um, yeah, I think for me, I've always been someone who, even from the time that I was young, valued and knew that I needed time alone and knew that I needed time to recharge. Um, and I kind of walked into motherhood with a semblance of that, but was still really, like I was really battling with this idea of what I thought a mother had to be. And so I have this one part of me that's like, okay, am I a really selfish human? Like, am I the most selfish woman on the planet? Because I can't, I would go into, I would just say the consciousness or of what I observed about motherhood. And I would be in that. And I would be like, this is the worst. Like, I am not myself at all. I don't like feeling this way. And what type of mom am I if I'm just going to like if my children are around me and they're not seeing my full authentic self all the time? Not that every moment of the day needs to be that way, but I felt really, to me, energy speaks more than actions and words. And the consciousness in which I do something matters to me the most. And so sometimes I would be in that victim consciousness of motherhood and just be like, okay, I'm just going to like serve more, or just pretend that I'm really happy doing this, or just like I'll speak the words, I'm really happy, it's the best, it's so great, I love this stage. When inside I'd be like, I don't actually really feel that way, but I'm just going to kind of keep saying it and I'm going to hope it turns into my reality. And then I would have moments where I would be taking up space and be like, I need to have space. Like, I need to feel like I'm myself without a child attached to me, or without a husband to love on, or like, I don't want to be a wife, or I don't want to be just a mom. And so I really had that tug and pull at the beginning of childbearing years of like, what does this mean to be a good mom for me? Because whatever it is most authentically for me, then it'll be the best mom for my boys. Even if someone would look at me and say, that woman takes up a lot of space, that woman requires a lot of resources, I don't care what they think about me, because they don't have to be in my body and in my home and in my life. And so it's really been a journey for me of like, how much space can I take up? And then sometimes I would take up space, and then it would be a kind of withdraw because I didn't feel safe to do that. And then I'd kind of regress back to, okay, well, like, I don't need anything till next week. And it's okay. Like, if I could just get my workout in, then that's all I need. And then, like, it was a play with everything. And then it's interesting because as you go through this process, what's also so fun about it, which I wish that people in your life will reflect back to you the wound that you're trying to grow out of. So surely once you start taking up space, surely once you start to become more embodied, someone close in your life will come to you and say the thing that like hits the nail on the head, the salt in the wound, where my mom would be like, Katelyn, I don't understand why you need a nanny. Like, so for reference, I just want to say that I don't think that everyone needs a nanny. I don't think everyone needs help. I personally, my husband and I thrive when we have help. We made literally $20,000 one year. Like the first year that I birthed Kingston, $20,000. We were freaking church mice poor. But somehow, like, I just picked up I was working part-time as a hairdresser. Um, I found a girl who would work for me for $10 an hour, and I hired her for 3 hours a week, and I like $30. And I was like, I could surely come up with $30. That's so easy. I can somehow make $30. And I would pay her to just come over and watch Kingston so that I could like go on a walk by myself or like just do something where I wasn't attached to the identity of motherhood, being a wife type of thing. And it was just this slow progression of getting to know who I was. And I feel like at the beginning, it's kind of clunky and it's awkward, and you'll have someone come in and they'll say something kind of mean, and then you'll be like, oh, maybe it's not okay. Or your partner will reflect back to you like, I don't know. Like, what are you doing? Because it wasn't always even easy for my husband, as he had a mom who had 6 kids, and his mom was much more traditional of like stay at home, birth children. Like, I love it. And she thrives being a mother. And I'm like, what if I'm not the type of woman that just thrives at every moment being a mother? What does that make me? And I really had to reconcile like that part of me that wasn't necessarily like, I love motherhood. I love my children. But there were parts of motherhood that I'm like, I really actually don't love this. And I really had to give myself the permission to be like, I don't love this part, instead of lying about it. And everyone's like, oh, I love it so much. And if they love it, I love that. It was just for me, like, that's where it was getting to know me of like, oh my gosh, Katelyn, I see you in these moments where you feel like you're tired, where you feel like you're not seen, and you feel like you don't like doing this part of motherhood. There are aspects and parts of motherhood I do love, and the parts that I don't love, I just had to give myself full permission to not love that. And from there, I felt like like, just reality literally shifts itself. It's crazy. It's not like it was like, oh, and then I did this and this and this. I think it goes back to the first hermetic law or natural law. Like everything in the world, the first law is everything is mental. And so you're really dealing with the mind and its beliefs, and it's clunky, and you're with children and they're like always mirroring back to you where your consciousness isn't free. And then you have this internal pressure that's like, okay, well, here's what I believe and I should feel this way. And then your children will bring up a moment where you're not free and you're like, I don't know how to reconcile it. And it's such a crazy journey. It's such an initiation being a mom.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to go back and touch on, what you said about, like, a nanny, because I think that that was such a paradigm shift for me, and I wasn't like you. I was, like, the type that was like, "I have to do this alone," like, "This is what it is to be a mother," like, I just took it all on and had a lot of judgment of people who had nannies or cleaners, right? And I know that, like, it's not for everybody, and it does obviously cost money. But at least for me, my husband was the biggest teacher in that way of, like, he's so good at just whatever he doesn't wanna do, he'll outsource. And he kept approaching me like, "Well, let's just outsource things that in motherhood you just don't like doing." And I was like, "What? Who does that?" Like,
Hmm.
that's only for people who have, like, all the money in the world, and no, I can't do like, I just kept myself in that, like, cage, thinking that I had to take it on all myself. And I grew up with a mother who was, like, super clean freak, really great at managing the house, and I had so much shame around, like, I'm not like my mom, like, I try and I'm trying to have a clean house, but I cared so much and stressed so much about having a clean house versus connecting with my kids, and then it just made me an angry mom. 'Cause, until I realized the house will never always be just, like, perfectly clean. So you could just be cleaning the rest of your life and miss out on being with your children. So I had a lot of, like, just totally different, paradigm shifts with all of those things of, "Oh, what do I actually love doing? And then the things that I actually really don't like, let's get creative and let's figure it out." Like you did. You were making pennies and you still figured out a way to make it work for you. And so I think it is just like a shift in looking at things. But when you're raised in a society and culture that like has a lot of judgment around it,
Hmm.
it's hard to shift out of that. But if everyone really truly did what they loved, our world would be a much better place. And the thing is, say you hate cleaning, but it's like you have this idea that, no, I'm the mother, I have to do it all. There's actually people out there that really love to clean. Like, give them that gift, right? My brother-in-law has a house cleaning business. I am so exhausted of cleaning my house. He genuinely loves to make people's lives better by helping and cleaning their homes. Like, it brings him so much joy. And so we hire him to come, and it's such a symbiotic relationship, right? And it's an energy exchange, and it has made me a much better mom.
Mhm, mhm.
And I had to let go of the idea that, oh, like, only super rich people can afford that. Well, you know what? You can always, like, whatever you prioritize in your life is where your money's gonna go. And we kinda had that conversation on a walk yesterday or the other day, of just, like, people put their money in whatever they prioritize, and and it's up to you. Like, if you really want it, you can find a way and you can get creative. And that's something that I was thankful for my husband, who's really good at how can we get creative about this and, like, take a step back and not look at it so personally. So with motherhood is parenthood, and if you have a spouse, doing it with you, um, you can also look at it as like a business. That was something that my husband and I had to kind of like stop and be like, okay, like having a family is kind of like running a business, right?
100%.
Running a
Yes.
household, you're running people,
Mhm.
little children. So for us, it helped to just take a step back and be like, oh, if you look at it in that perspective, it's like a business. You don't get so triggered and like defensive
It's
if
not so personal anymore. Like, it's not like it means anything about you as a human. It's
right.
like,
It's
no,
like,
this is a business and it needs to function well. Yeah.
how can we make this more functional? How
Yeah.
can we make it easier? How can we make it more efficient? Right.
Mhm.
And, so luckily, having a partner like that who is in that more the masculine side, that's the masculine side of motherhood. Let's look at it like a business,
Yeah.
CEO of the home. And so that was super helpful. And I think, you also just have to reprogram. I had to reprogram. It's okay to hire help. It's okay to have cleaners come. It's okay to order, like, meal delivery services.
Mhm.
We did that for several years and bounced off a bunch of them because I realized I'm like, I just, like, hate planning meals. It just, like, ugh, not my
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
I love food, but planning it was just so exhausting. And so for several years, that's what we did. But now that I have more space and time, I actually am, like, enjoying it more because my kids are at school all day and I have the space to actually think about, like, "Oh, like, maybe I will make some muffins and and, like, actually care
Mhm.
because I had the space." But when I was an exhausted, overstimulated mother, that was just another thing on my list that just drained me.
Yeah.
So I am giving any woman out there permission to just take stock of what do you love to do? What do you not love to do? How can you get creative to make it work for you? And that's okay.
100%.
Like, it's amazing. You'll show up
100%.
so much better as a mother, as a
St
wife, as a friend.
Yes. Yes. Step into the role of your queenhood. Step into it with like, and stop stepping into motherhood as a little church mouse who requires nothing, who just deserves crumbles. You gave life. You are the center of your family. We are as women, we are the center of our communities. As like life would not move forward if it were not for us. And then when the feminine is forgotten, then we reside, in a patriarchal world and nothing is wrong. Like, it's like we are remembering the feminine essence is remembering itself and it is remembering that it is important and that it needs time to rest and that it needs time to receive and that it needs time not doing things. And this goes back, I want to tie this back into embodiment. Like, what does embodiment mean to you? Look at your life and pretend you had all of the resources in the world. How would you set your life up? And then I would really create structures or and like I really do well with routine. Andrea is a lot more fluid. Like I need to know that I can like wake up and do this and this when I wake up. Andrea is a lot more like day to day. She knows that she just needs time to herself, but it can be fluid. But it's not this hard. I don't want to present this in a way that's like, and every morning you wake up before your kids wake up at 5 a.m. and you have this very structured morning
For
routine.
you, amazing.
Yes, like
Never been me.
never. And it just is, that's what it is we got, we're really finding ourselves in motherhood. And we really need to take the pressure off of ourselves, of having to show up in whatever way that we've been told to show up, and then really decide, how do I want to show up? And what would that look like? And what systems would I have in place? And what support would I have in place? And who would I be in this interaction? And there was a phase that was really helpful to me when I would just imagine, like I would embody, I would meditate and connect to the qualities of this higher frequency self that I felt like was really me, and have kind of communion with that soul. And then I would imagine what woman would be, how that woman would be interacting with her children. Because there's certain scenarios with your children, that happen very frequently. You're like, okay, well, and then this will do that. And then, Kingston will say this, and then I will do this. And you like act out the play, and it's exhausting when you act out the play over and over again. It's those moments that I would start to, in my mind, be like, what would this woman who is of God, who is a high frequency, who is authentic in every moment, how would she show up in this moment with her children, with her husband, while she's cooking dinners, or not cooking dinners? You're like Andrea said, my highest self, she doesn't cook dinners. Like she doesn't have time for that. It's giving ourselves full permission to do the thing that our soul calls us to do, and to know thyself. And in doing so, we will help our children know themselves. And the reason why we're a part of the reason of why we are in this whole debacle of being so, if you think about the word embodiment, it means that you're living from the inside out. It means that who you are is at the core emanating. And so the opposite of embodiment is disembodied. So that means, and I think the listener said this very well, and she's like, I shut it down, and then it's like I just go on airplane mode, and I'm like, motherhood, logistics, how can we how can we live from the inside out while doing those things? And then having full permission to offload whatever it is that we don't love or feel lit up by. And knowing that whenever you decide to switch your belief system, your world will literally shift and reorient itself around you, because an embodied person commands their field. What does that mean? That whatever that you feel inside means that you have a belief. There's a belief inside of you. You have an emotion or a feeling around it that emanates from you constantly. So anyone who's interacting with you is interacting with the emanation of what it is that you're believing. When we change that, and we're now emanating as, I am whole, I am complete, I am authentic, I am love, I am compassion, I am brave, then our world, without us having to necessarily know this, okay, I'm going to do this checklist and then I'll be embodied. It's like, be embodied and then let the world shift around you. And what I've noticed is just, it's like one moment at a time. Like, how can I connect to my breath and just be in that one moment? And then sometimes I just have to give myself the permission to be on airplane mode. And that's okay too. As you grow your consciousness and you grow your awareness, as you're expanding energetically, I really, just being aware that you're going on airplane mode, that is so beautiful. Like, just knowing, like, in this full moment, I am giving my full authenticity and essence, and I'm reconnecting back with that high frequency self while I am making this lunch. And while this child is screaming, it's really like, and it's not necessarily like it changes that scenario. That's the thing. It's not necessarily like you have this full different outcome with your child screaming. It's really just this moment where you are reparenting yourself, where you are holding yourself in the frequency in which you want to be in. And what I've observed is that over time, as I hold myself within that frequency of love, of that I have my own back, my children's actions, my husband's actions, like it's like they just shift. And I'm able to hold more of their frequency and their emotions and their reactions because now I feel more steady and stable in my own body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I had the shift in perception, I realized I was concerned about filling my cup and filling from and pouring from my cup until I realized someone had said, "No, no, no, you fill your cup and then the overflow you give from the saucer." And
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, that's so true." Should like, just always try to fill your cup, and then when it overflows, that's what you give to others. And in those moments of when your child's screaming and having a tantrum, you're not gonna feel as triggered because you're good. Like, you're not pouring from an empty cup. And I've noticed that as, some days I don't have a full cup. Some days I am pouring from my saucer and it's wonderful. And I have so much more patience with my kids. And I give myself grace for all of it. And I just try to show up authentically. My oldest child is 11. There's multiple times, like when my husband is traveling and I'm a single mom. And shout out to all the single moms out there. Like, you are incredible. You are doing amazing. Give yourself grace.
Mhm.
It is a lot, a big mantle to hold when it's just one parent and many children, and even just one child. Anyways, and I just get real with my kids and I'm like, "Look, this is the first time I've been a parent. This is the first time, like, XYZ, have some grace." Like, one thing I always say to them is because bedtime can be like a chore, right? Getting 4 kids all to bed when it's just me, and I look at them and I'm like, "You guys, there's 1 of me and there's 4 of you, like, everybody help me out." The older ones, I can at least, like, level with them a bit more and be like, "You're gonna have to wait a little longer to get my attention." And just I realized, like, that just shifts the energy within our home where instead of me yelling at them because I'm exhausted and they just don't understand what's going on, the reality of what's going on, just being real with my kids has really helped a lot. That like, their countenance changes. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that is a lot." And there's only one of you, and there are multiple of us. Like, okay, I can go wait a little bit longer in my room for you to come lay down with me and chat and all the things. And I also wanted to touch on the comparison trap within motherhood. I think it was like several years ago I think it's Simply on Purpose. She has a great account about parenting. And I loved that she every year would have a post about like, this is the kind of mom that I am. And instead of focusing on what she wasn't, she focused on who she was as a mother and shared that. And I loved it because all mothers have so many beautiful gifts. I am not the mom that's amazing at planning parties and has like the best setup ever and the cutest little things. Like, I've just never been that mom. And I admire the moms that are. And when I was in more of that like shadow side of motherhood, of like, oh my gosh, but I'm not like her and I'm not like her. And if only I showed up this way for so and so, it just like kept me deeper in that. And I carried more shame. I carried more just emotions around motherhood that I was failing. And I just loved following her account at that time because it helped me realize, like, oh, I don't have to be that mom. I can be like, what mom am I? I'm the mom that's a little bit more real. I'm the mom that, like, I can have those conversations with my kids and level with them. I'm the mom that, you know what? I need time alone. Like, I can't constantly be with my kids. I'm the mom that I do thrive when they're at school, but then I have the space that I can show up in a more level grounded place when they get home that I can handle the chaos. And I think the times when we sit and look at, like, what kind of mom am I? And let's focus on that instead of what so and so does. And social media doesn't help, right? I see a lot of women who are amazing cooks and they're making homemade Cheez Its. And I'm like, wow, I'm not that mom. And then I start judging myself, like, oh my gosh, I need to be doing that. Like, so, anyways, let it go. Focus on who you are, what kind of mother you want to be, and let the rest go. And you'll find so much more happiness in motherhood.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree. You just, and tools that are really fun, that can be really fun to help you get you out of your state is like human design and astrology and looking at your gifts and seeing what that means because sometimes it can give you the permission that you've always wanted or pull parts of you out. Not that I think that astrology or human design is the end goal, but sometimes those systems can be helpful because it brings to light these parts of us that we've had so much shame around if we've been so conditioned to be a different way. To be like, I've always been that way, but I didn't know that it was part of my design or part of my gift or part of how I'm supposed to emanate and animate within the world. And I think those are also really fun. But yeah, it's giving yourself full permission and then letting every moment be. It's, my podcast is called Rooted and Divine. And I did that because we are here having human experiences. We are a soul having a human experience. And also within that, it's been my experience of being a human that we really do have more power and magic within us and the ability to shape our reality into what we want it to be while still remaining grounded within this human experience like motherhood, which is a very human experience. And it's every day choosing one step at a time of like, what do I really want to shift within my reality so that it will reflect more of who I am? And then having the courage to just let yourself do that or simply be that, like really even letting yourself feel that way. It's not even necessarily like anything has to change. It's almost like we just suppress the actual emanation of feeling our divinity, of feeling our authenticity, because it's like, well, who am I to do that? And who am I if like my mom didn't act this way or my mom, my friends aren't doing this and how is this going to shift? But it's not even in those, it's not that your whole life needs to change or that you need to hire a meal service or a nanny or a cleaning service, although I highly recommend just offloading something everyone should offload something. But it's really giving yourself the permission to feel your authenticity, to feel your divinity, even in those sticky moments, and then to come back to that at one point every day for at least a minute to be like, oh, I remember who I am. And then it's just all of a sudden it'll become more and more of who you are. And it will start to take up more space in your body and take up more space in your life. And it's so nourishing. And there's a million ways to do it. And I'm not claiming that I have this absolutely figured out. And I feel like Andrea will probably say the same thing.
We're all in this together.
But we're all in this together and really redefining what it means to be a woman and what it means. Actually, I really feel like as a collective, we're even redefining what it means to be human
Yeah.
because it's been so like power over and dominion and being like performance based. And I feel like we're really coming back to be the part of the tapestry, the puzzle piece that you are supposed to be. And when you are like that, then you will give your kids permission to be that way. And sometimes I use our kids as an example is because we're like, we will do anything for our kids. It's like that meme on Instagram. It's like, we'll do anything for your kids, but will you live or be healthy like for your kids? Like a lot of health accounts will use that. But I'm
Mm.
like, but would you be your truest, most authentic emanation and trust that that's exactly what your children need? That it's not about being this perfect, weird mom that you've come up with, that we've all come up with, and really deconstructing that and becoming exactly who you're meant to be, which is day by day, moment by moment. And that I can only say that you can only get there with so much grace and so much compassion and so much like truly it is reparenting yourself. Like you're in the moment and then you realize that you didn't act the way that felt aligned and then it's coming back and being like, "Oh my goodness, I see that." And I of course I would have acted that way. That's how I was taught. Or of course I would. I love myself for acting that way and here's how I want to move forward. I'm connecting with the energy of, you know, again, the virtues like grace, love, compassion, patience, benevolence, and strength, courage, softness. But anyways, anything in closing, Andrea, that you feel like you would like to say to the people?
Yeah, I just to touch base exactly what you said, it's not about doing more.
Mm,
Usually it's about doing less
mhm,
and figuring out just energy, right? Where are you putting your energy? What's draining your energy? And just start there.
mhm,
Start with an awareness, and then it's just taking little action every day. You don't have to be perfect at it, and follow your joy, honestly. Like, the things that light you up is the gift that you bring to the world, and the gift that you bring to anyone in your family and for your children, and just keep following your joy, and the awareness is the first step.
mhm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Follow your joy, follow the weird things that light you up. Do the things that you wish you always could do, but never felt like you had permission to do that.
Yeah,
And you will be blown away. Like it's a small process. Sometimes it feels like it's watching grass grow, but even last night I was talking to my husband. I'm like, "Babe, like 5 years ago, we were talking about the progress you made." I'm like, "You would have never even imagined your life to be what it is today. Like you would have never imagined doing the things that you're doing." And really give yourself that grace of like, you are
yeah,
break if you are listening to this podcast, you are like a chain breaker. You are here to really shift the consciousness and paradigms of your family. And it takes patience and courage and love. And I just commend you for writing in the question. And if anyone else feels like they have a question, please send it in. If I don't have the answer, then I'll surely bring on someone who I feel that does answer it. And um, yeah, like let's shift the consciousness of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a mother, what it means to be here together. And these are the small conversations that hopefully will help you do that. So,
yeah, and one last comment is, if you're feeling like you don't know women that talk about these things, reach out.
mhm.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah.
Reach
Andrea
out
and
to me.
I Andrea and I connected through a women's group because it can
Yes.
feel very lonely waking up
Yes.
within I mean, the culture that we're in within a culture. When you're choosing to leave certain belief systems behind, it can feel very lonely, especially if you have friends who are still within those belief systems and paradigms. And anyways, it just yeah, reach out. So
Yep. We're here for you. You're not
yes.
alone.
And I will link Andrea's account in the show notes. And she's also a birth doula and taking on clients this year. And you guys can check that out. And then she hosts women's circles. I host women's circles sometimes. So you could also follow our Instagram pages to see if any of those events are happening. And Andrea is always reposting other women, I feel like, who are doing women's circles. So I feel like there's always
Nice.
something happening where we can connect more. So I'm so glad you were here with me today, Andrea. I love you.
Yes. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you for joining me today. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with another woman on her journey. And until next time, stay rooted in your humanity and devoted to your becoming.